Well, good morning.
Good morning, Lex.
How are you?
Oh, good. It's a beautiful day today.
It is. And it's fantastic to have everyone part of Redgum this morning. Happy birthday to Rod Pearce. Today's his birthday.
Right.
And Rod's been a friend since I was just a teenager.
Okay.
So he's one of those special people in our life.
So he's just turning 21.
Well, no. I don't know if you realise, but I'm not that sort of age either, you know. And so just welcome to everyone this morning, especially to Josh and Darcy in England.
Yes.
Just got engaged.
Congratulations, guys.
Yes,
That's
well
exciting.
done. Yes, I don't know who wins the lottery on that one, whether it's Darcy or Josh. I think Josh has done very well for himself. And this morning, I'm really excited. There's a real sense for me of almost nervous energy because we're going to be doing the life story of Carissa. And it's been years and years, this story coming together, and she's going to share it with us. And we're going to be very privileged to actually experience that and be part of that today. So I'm looking forward to that. So over to you. Oh, we're hoping in 4 weeks' time, as long as the road map doesn't become a mud map, right? As long as we can get out of this thing.
As long as the Melways are not a Gregory.
That's it. We're going to actually be meeting together as a church. We're going to have up to 100 people outdoors. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah. So there's a few details got to still sort out, but that's the story.
That means we'll be actually with other people other than just ourselves.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, it was Carissa's birthday this week on Monday, but I'm actually going to talk about that later when we do the interview, Coral, so thank you very much. I love having a wife that focuses on the detail that I normally forget, but then doesn't know what I've also got in my head and where I'm going to do things. So, over to you before I get into more trouble, okay?
That's a very wise idea. Well, it's great to have you all here today and joining us online. And, like I said, it's a beautiful day today, so make sure you get out and enjoy it. You'll love spring. It's even if it's funny how we can put what we call mind over matter, I suppose. There's no way I would ever get up at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning to come to church. But technically I did because of daylight savings, but anyway, it's just one of those wonderful, strange things. Anyway, let's sing. Yep. I'll switch myself on. There we go. That's the one.
Treasures of fate never known. You came along, put me back together. Every design is now satisfied here in the Lord. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you.
was buried beneath my shame. Who can carry that kind of weight? It was my turn till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my turn, Jesus, when I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. And now your freedom is all that I know. The old way knew Jesus when I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness to your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, sins were of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, now you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you called my name, I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name, I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness to your glorious day. Well, over to you, Lex and Chris.
Guys, in fact, Rachel, your first little go at backup singing today with Redgum.
Sarah.
How good's that? Hey, Sarah, will you stop changing your name? I was talking to Rachel a little bit earlier, and it's just that name. I just want to tell you, Sarah, I have two daughters. I never get their names right, so don't think that you're going to get special preference, okay? So,
Thanks,
welcome
Jeff.
to everyone who I can't remember your names, but it's just great to be here. I'm actually so super excited. I've known Chris since she was this little feral 13-year-old kid that was always into mischief. And to sit here, you just turned 50 on Monday. We went out for a birthday tea on Tuesday night. And to be sitting here with Jeff Wigney. Now, Jeff, I've only met for the first time today, but Jeff was my dad's solicitor and did an amazing job. Dad had so much faith and trust in you, really did. And then we've had many conversations on the phone. In fact, you were a great encouragement when we were looking at starting Redgum. You're one of those people in the background barracking for us. And I felt your support, I felt your encouragement. And here we are a couple of years later, and it's just amazing. So thank you, Jeff, for being part of today. Now, Chris, I want to go back to Christmas 2017. Now, 2017 had been a really tough year for you. And in fact, I had my 60th birthday that year. And when we came down from Sydney, Coral said, who do you want at your birthday? And I said, I just want family, which meant that you were there. And
Thank you.
And every Christmas, you and Milan would have Christmas lunch with us. And leading up to the Christmas in 2017, you were in a really dark hole, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You'd lost all hope for life. And so, knowing where you were, I rang you up to make sure you're going to be there for Christmas Day. And I said to you, I have a gift for you. Now, did you imagine what that gift was going to be?
No.
Did you have any idea?
No, definitely not.
Oh, I had no idea either. So, but I knew God had something for you. And I can remember we had Christmas lunch together, and then we went into the little room off the lounge room there, and I said, this is my gift for you. I want to pray for you. And as I started to pray, I didn't know I was going to pray. And I just remember praying for you, and it was like God gave me the exact thing to pray for. And I started praying that hope would return to your life.
Yes.
And that was the furthest thing from what was possible for you. And I actually declared over you that day that this would be the year that God would restore hope. In fact, I got a pen, handcrafted by Joel Pike, and engraved on it said 2018, the year of the restoration of hope. And I gave that to you.
That's correct.
But hope was a long way from where you were. How bad was things back then?
Things were about as bad as they get back then. So, and I remember when Lex said that to me, that I'll give you hope, I just looked at him politely and smiled. And thought, hope is when you've got absolutely nothing else left. And that's exactly how it was.
Yeah, because you had financially, you were living
Zip.
You were living in a little house up Wairera.
That's a little asbestos box up in the bush.
You paid $100 a week rent.
And battled even for water. I had to fight just for survival, just for water. And we were in a drought.
And fuel.
And very debilitated by depression and a hugely high anxiety as well.
You were real misery guts, weren't you?
I was a total mess.
You were.
Absolute.
So to declare over you that this would be the year that God would restore hope, there was nothing you could actually put hope to, was there?
There wasn't. No, I couldn't see any light at any tunnel. The only lights I saw were the trains coming at me. And hope was the last thing that I had. I had not had hope for years. I can remember losing hope, and because you just think it's never going to end. This was just year after year after year of absolute poverty, depression, anxiety, just working really to keep my family alive, and that's it.
Yep.
Just putting on a happy face.
Well, it wasn't that happy a face sometimes.
No, well, I could be real with you, Lex.
And
I'd go to Lex and cry.
And so here Lex is, the big, white knight in shining armour, rides into your world and says, I'm declaring God's going to restore hope to you. And then 28th of January, you find out that your dad has died.
Yes, that's true.
And your dad was your only remaining family. Your mum died when you were 20. Your brother Fred has died.
Yes, I still had a brother then called Phil, but he has since passed on too.
But your biological family, like absolutely same father, same mother, your mum, every single direct relative to you has now died.
I do have a very special aunt in New South Wales, but yes, other than that, yes.
And so in this year of the restoration of hope, January 28th comes and you find out that your father has died, and he's died 6 months earlier.
That's true.
And the reason you didn't find out, because you've grown up in a very unusual family.
A secret family.
So your dad for 30 years loved your mum.
Yes, I do believe.
You were the third of 3 children that he fathered.
Yes.
But he was married and had another family, and you were the big dark secret.
Yes, and we were raised under cloak and dagger.
So the family that he was married to, he had 3 children,
Yes,
and they did not know
nobody knew.
that you existed. And
That's
so,
right.
So that's why it was so unusual for you to find out how you did.
Yes, because no one can tell me because we didn't exist.
Yes. Now, I've actually had the privilege, and I think, Jeff, you've had also the privilege of reading some of the emails between Carissa.
Yes, and I've, as part of the legal case that I was involved with, which we'll hear about in due course, I got the benefit of seeing the full history, all the emails and all of the information that Carissa expertly put together, and it is an absolutely amazing story.
Yes.
And I've told Carissa it would make an amazing film one day.
Yes.
But it certainly is quite an extraordinary life that Carissa has had. She's just been fantastic the way that she's dealt with it.
Yes. And of all the emails, I think the saddest email that I've read between you and your dad was the one where you actually finished and you said this: "Love from Carissa, the daughter you wished you never had." Because you had actually poured out all the grief you felt to him about being the secret daughter. What was that actually like growing up for you?
Well, in a funny way, it was normal because it was all I ever knew. But in other ways, I think it's manifested later in hiding and, I think there's a part of you inside that makes you feel, because your daddy's dirty secret. And even though I desperately loved my father, there must be a shame factor within the soul when you are not allowed to say who your father is. He was involved in major events of Melbourne, and I wasn't allowed to discuss it with anybody.
So he was high up in the police force, wasn't he? Yes.
And the Russell Street bombing, that was around his work, and I couldn't discuss that with anyone. Thankfully, he was fine, which was great, and he contacted us secretly and told us that. There must be a shame factor.
Just go back to your childhood. He would come occasionally visit here in Bairnsdale?
Yes, he would sometimes when he could come up here.
But he was unable to help your mum financially at all, was he?
No.
Why was that?
Because his wife administered their finances. She was the home manager.
And so if he had, no matter what he wanted to do to help you as a family, he couldn't because it would have exposed...
It would have exposed the secret, yes.
Yes. So you really grew up in poverty?
No, actually, my mum was a single mum, nurse, and she worked very hard.
Okay.
But she died when I was 20, so that's where you see the poverty, because
Yes.
I'm not as clever as my mum. And from when she died, we were practically orphans, although we didn't realise we were orphans, but there was no help coming from anywhere.
Yes, yep. And so you sort of lost contact with your dad at different times. Was there a 9-year gap, I think, with actually when you had...
Definitely. And that might have only been one meeting. I think
Yes.
I'd only seen him twice in 20-something years.
Yep. And so even the emails were difficult because of his role in the police force. The communication was secretive as well, wasn't it?
Yes, he made a secret email account for me.
So this 2018 we're into now, and we've prayed that God restore hope, and your dad now has passed away. And
Yes, and I was very afraid of him passing away, actually.
Because he was your connection.
Yeah, and I wouldn't find out more about my family. He was the only one that could tell me everything, but he never did.
Yeah, and in fact, some of the emails, you even beg him to tell you more about your mum, because he knew stories about your mum you didn't know.
Yeah.
And at his death, those stories are gone.
There was a lot of begging in those emails.
Yes.
Very polite begging.
And so you find out your dad has passed away, and you also find out that there's been some estate left behind.
Yeah, I was aware of some estate, yes.
Yeah. And so we had a conversation, and you asked, I'm a legitimate daughter of my father, and my family, his family, don't know I exist. do I need to put my hand up and say, hang on, excuse me, I'm here?
Yeah, I was a bit nervous to jump out the cake when because they've lost their father, and no one knew. So and I'd always been taught very strictly to keep my mouth shut and to never expose this. So I was very afraid as to what to do. Do I continue living on the razor's edge of homelessness with my son and have no hope, or do I try and have a chance if I might be entitled to anything?
Yeah, because like in reading your emails between you and your dad, you made it very clear. Often you'd say, Dad, I'm not trying to chase you for money. I'm not wanting money. I'm desperate for family. I've lost my mother. My marriage has fallen apart. My best friend has been killed in a car accident. And you'd list all the losses you've had.
Yep.
And you were not after money.
No.
Right? And so you're conflicted with this, should I even put my hand up? And I remember you praying about it.
Expose the big secret.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then I remembered this amazing person called Jeff Wigney.
Jeff Wigney.
Right? And
the best lawyer.
And so I put you two in contact with each other. So tell me, Jeff, what happened then?
Okay, so I'd known Carissa for years, and I knew a little bit about the story. I knew the existence of her dad and the secret, but we hadn't spoken for quite a while. And then I just get a call from Carissa, and she fills me in with her dad having passed away 6 months before, and just inquiring as to whether it was, worth pursuing a claim on his estate.
Now, Jeff, just for a sec, my understanding is that probate had been announced. Is that how it happens?
Yep.
And then there's a cut-off point?
Yes.
And so when Chris contacted you, the cut-off point was like maybe a couple of days or something, was it?
It was coming up fairly quickly,
and what's the significance of that?
You've got a period of 6 months from when a grant of probate is obtained to actually issue the legal proceedings, and after that, you're not allowed to unless there are rare exceptions apply, which wouldn't have been the case here. So it just provides certainty for an estate being wound up. So it was a matter of, if we did want to do it, we needed to commence fairly quickly, which Carissa agreed to do. So we got that ball rolling, fairly quickly as Carissa was gathering together all the information, getting birth certificates and death certificates, because this was going to come as a major shock to this other family.
Yes, of course.
Because they did not know the existence of Carissa, and all of a sudden, some unknown person to them was going to be introduced to them, and also saying, we want a share of the estate as the daughter of the deceased. So
wow.
It's actually a very, very significant thing that we did. And I remember the very first letter that I wrote to the other side and said, look, you're going to be a bit surprised about what I'm about to tell you, but here it is. And I sort of laid it all out for them, and they got back to me and said, look, no, that can't be right. And so we had to gather together all of the documents and photographs and everything to just make it very clear without any doubt as to what the true history had been involving Carissa and her dad, and it would have knocked them over. So we did it respectfully, and not arrogantly, but we had to do it very clearly to help them come to the realisation of what the true situation was. And it would have been a massive shock for them. And all along the way, Chris has always said, am I being fair, and am I doing the right thing in relation to my half-siblings?
Yeah, so take us to that, Chris. What were you feeling? You'd started the process, but what were you feeling like, even digging up all the past? There's a lot of hurt in that. Yeah,
it was very traumatic to do, and I was in a very traumatised state in the first place.
Yeah, you were already hopeless.
I don't know how that did. But I was fighting for my life. That's how I felt. And if we won, there's a possible change, and if we lost, well, we just didn't look at those. We didn't look at those issues.
Yeah. So it was a journey that we went on because it's not a quick process. It's a slow unfolding of the facts, and the legal process itself is quite slow. But we journeyed together, and we had a few laughs along the way.
We certainly did.
And we met quite a bit, and Carissa, I got her to do all the background chase-up work, and she was just brilliant at that.
Thank you.
And so she made my job easy as far as the facts were concerned. I knew that the law was on her side, and so with the combination of those two things...
And the DNA.
Yeah, and
So
so one of
was
the...
that, just take us to that. So the turning point had to be absolute proof.
Yeah,
Like,
so
you can
there
have
was,
a story, but
yeah,
yes.
so there was one crucial factor. Despite us providing all of this information to the other side, they still said this could not be true. And I said, well, it actually is true. And, the one scientific and totally objective way to establish paternity is through DNA test. And so they agreed for that process to be undertaken. So there was a DNA test provided, and it, objectively and totally established that Carissa was her father's daughter, and we knew that, yes. But for them it was important to see it in black and white, and it took a lot of the contention away as far as her having a claim. But then, of course, it's a totally new scenario. Well, how much is her claim worth? And that was sort of what a lot of the case and time was about, establishing what is appropriate, what does the law provide as a remedy to someone in these circumstances. And that's sort of one of my areas of expertise. So I was able to work with Carissa, and we engaged a barrister who was also a Christian. And so we were able to, use our different skill sets and experience and knowledge to put together a very powerful case to help.
Yeah, and I think outside of you, this still wouldn't have happened because Chris had no money to even begin a process, and you didn't ask for money up front, right?
No.
You knew Chris. You took this on. You saw the right, the justice in all this, and so Chris, when that DNA came back, and you knew you'd grown up with the story, but what did it mean to you as far as identity was concerned?
Well, it proved my identity, but even having a story and taking the test, you still don't know. It was quite nerve-wracking because if that didn't work, that would have looked real bad.
That would have, yes.
Yeah, it was all over.
It was
If that
nervous.
DNA test
Yeah.
came back with a different result, it was the case was over. So simple as that. So even though you have every confidence that it's right, it was still sort of opening the email and getting the information. It was one of those moments that you have.
So you end up having to go through a legal process, and the process is to establish a share of the estate. It began, the first offer was pretty low and discouraging.
Yeah, I can remember
Giggly.
we had a mediation because this area of law sensibly encourages the parties to come to agreement.
Okay.
And so you do it through a court process. So we went into Melbourne to the county court, and Chris and Milan were there, and the other side were there, and there was a judge, and we have discussions during the day. And then the opportunity comes for any sort of offers of settlement. And I can remember the first offer, it was very low. We won't mention figures today, but it was really low, and it did stagger me a little bit. And it's not a game, but it's part of the process, And I can remember I said to them, so how did you come up with that amount? Because it was an unusual amount. And they said, we have looked into properties in Moe, and that would pay for a deposit for a house in Moe. Well, she doesn't come from Moe, and it was really, I didn't really know how to respond. I think I said, "Oh, really?" Because it was a put down. Nothing against people from Moe or properties in Moe, but it was.
We love Moe. We love Moe.
So it's
Everyone
not
watching
that.
in Moe, we love you.
But
yes.
there was no basis for that,
Yes.
and it was just trying to put her in what they thought was her place, which was, it was water off a duck's back to us, but at the time it was like, really?
Yes. But was it that day, or it was not long after, that the sort of barrister that you had working with you, if this actually got to a place where you could settle on a significant share of that inheritance?
The barrister was there that day, so we were sort of in a meeting room. So there was toing and froing during that day, and most of these cases settled at mediation. But this case didn't. So during the course of that day, it was quite a long and stressful day.
Yeah, well, Chris kept ringing me. I'm in Sydney, and I'm getting all these phone calls.
Yeah.
And it had gone from $10 to $25, and it
It
worked its way up.
was a long and stressful day, and we were still quite a distance apart. And Carissa would, even after the barrister had advised her, she'd turn to me quietly and say, is this fair? Is this a right result? And I was just not comfortable at the end of that day that it was right. And I said, look, I don't think it is, Carissa. It's not in the range of what I think is appropriate for you.
And this was, you were spinning out. Well, tell me what you were thinking at that stage, Chris, because you just were over it, weren't you?
Yeah, it's a very stressful day in a court. But yeah, it was, and it really hurt because it was the first time I saw my brother that I'd been wanting to meet all my life, and he was just racked in pain, and that really hurt, and I was so sorry that I had caused him this pain. But it was that or the razor's edge of homelessness, so I really had no say. But yeah, that was very disturbing, and I cried for days after that just to see him so racked in pain.
And I can remember you talking to me on the phone, and I'm in Sydney, and you're saying maybe we should just settle. I don't want to put them through any more pain. You actually had this sense of love and wanting to get to know them, and this was not how you wanted all this to go.
No.
And I can remember you were really dependent upon Jeff. And trusting you, Jeff, to take her through this. And you said to me, I've just got to trust Jeff. He knows what he's doing in the barrister. And so the settlement came a few days later. Is that how it happened?
It was actually a few weeks later.
Okay.
So there was a bit of toing and froing. It was very clear that the other side were very reluctant to have a full hearing in court because things would have come out, family secrets and things which would have been very embarrassing, I guess. But and Carissa and I, we didn't want to make that happen for them. So, but we just needed them to come up to an amount that was appropriate. And when they did, I said to Carissa, I think we're right now. And Carissa was very relieved, and it was
and
great.
Chris, do you remember what the barrister said to you? Because he's a Christian. And he's professional. He's very good at what he does. But do you remember what he said to you? Because Jeff told me, we haven't talked about this, but do you remember what he said to you?
He told me that if we do well to buy real estate.
Yeah, so Jeff, you tell us.
So I remember, I think it was actually before it settled. It's at that day of the mediation, but he said, which was a bit surprising to me, he said, Carissa, when you receive proceeds, I really urge you to use it to buy a house to live in, to provide for your security.
Yes.
And after all is finished, and we'll hear that Carissa has got a lovely house, I took a photo of Carissa and Milan outside the house, and I emailed it to the barrister, and I reminded him of what he said, and he said, look, I don't usually, he said, isn't that fantastic? What's happened for Carissa, and he said, I don't usually, give that advice. It's not legal advice, but I just felt at the time that I wanted to encourage her.
Yes.
A bit more like fatherly advice. Yeah, it was great.
So 2 years ago yesterday, you got the keys for your home.
I did.
And you've been able to...
We built a house, a brand new home.
And so you've been able to do that without debt on the house. And it's like... what your dad couldn't provide for you in life, he's provided for you in death.
Yes.
And so all those years, no matter how much he wanted to do and give for you and support your mum, he was unable to.
That's right.
And so this process eventually has led to where your dad has been able to provide you a home which you've never had. And this was the beginning of the restoration of hope. But even just with a home, you went through the loss of Phil, your brother.
Yes, I lost my brother on the journey of the house.
Right.
Yes, quite
and so
dramatically.
Just the house was still not the restoration of hope fully. Because today, you work full time.
Yeah.
You're in the best headspace you've been in years, right?
That's
You
right.
can you can tell the story out of health and not brokenness.
Yes, that's right.
So the house was really significant. Why was the house? It wasn't the end of the story, but why was your home important in the last 2 years?
Well, the home was important because I was actually so broken by the time I got the house and had nothing left that for the first year it was just a fortress. It was like my little hospital.
You could hide.
I could hide
And you're
in
really
comfort.
good at hiding.
Yeah, and I didn't have to worry about water and things like other people, that we take for granted. I just was very well looked after, and it took me at least a year in that house before I started feeling well.
And what else has contributed? What would you see has made the difference between the home? Because I can remember you saying to me, "I now have a home, but I still feel broken." So, where's the healing? What's the fundamental differences in the last 2 years?
One of the big things that I had has been the support of Redgum.
Yeah.
Which is that, I've always grown up with Lex, so he's always been like a rope around my waist whenever I've ventured off in little dark places.
I've been described as many things, but never a rope around your waist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you are, because you kept pulling me back.
Does that mean I'm just a weight that drags along behind you somewhere?
It's like whatever they had in the priest when they had someone that wasn't a priest who walked into the temple with a rope tied around them, so if they got killed, they could pull them out.
Yeah.
But I didn't get killed. But I found the support of Redgum. Because my life was such a mess, I had to fix up heaps of things, like even taxes, which is bad because I was a bookkeeper, but that's how it goes. And I couldn't face any of it because I just couldn't have another bad thing happen. But when I had the support of Redgum, I came to realise, look, I can face this, and even if the worst happens, I will still have people who love and support me, that I can at least go and cry in their arms, and I will still be loved despite whatever could happen regarding taxes or anything like that, because everything was a mess. And now it's not. Now it seems to be ironed out. And just a lot of really good support. I think that's fundamental. People who are going to love you if you shine or if you don't is fundamental. And that you can be real with and even, say exactly how you're feeling. Not just Christianese language, but reality.
Because you do swear sometimes.
Well, I didn't think we'd say that on camera, but yeah, I'm a bit of a colourful Christian.
A
lovable rogue.
Glenda, who's watching in Townsville, she's been a rock to you through all that time too. And
She is my rock. Hi, Glenda. I love you.
And she knows you swear sometimes, doesn't she?
Well, she swears sometimes too.
But we're just going to finish up now. But I was just thinking as you're just sharing that last little bit, I know that you also got hurt in church life.
Very hurt,
right?
yeah. And misjudged.
And so there was a wound that got into you. And so when you just shared then that those in Redgum have been part of the healing, how God's used a church to bring healing, there was also previously damage. You're not going to go there.
Yeah, there was a lot of damage, which we're healed from now. But, Redgum's been a church that really barracks for its people.
Yeah, and I think all churches do, but there is a sense that sometimes in church life people can get hurt, and it's just the vagaries of humanity, but it's not God's intention, it's not God's plan.
No,
and God's
it's just
restoration.
imperfect people.
If you've been hurt in church life, right, God wants to restore you, and he does it through churches that are safe. We're flawed. I've let you down plenty of times, right? Disappointed you, made you cranky at me sometimes, right? Sometimes.
Can't
yes.
recall any times now,
Right.
but must have happened.
So anyway, it's just so wonderful to see that what began as a prayer, as a declaration over you in Christmas 2017, we're sitting here today. You're a different person.
Totally different.
Set free, healed, restored. And that's the redemptive work of the cross. That's what Jesus does. And he does it through people. He does it through someone like Jeff Wigney, right? The role that, Jeff, you played is significant. Without you, this story would not be the story, right? You're a key, amazing human being God's sown into, prepared to be part of the story, It's quite incredible. Yeah. So
a brilliant lawyer.
Thanks, Carissa. It was just such a privilege to act on Carissa's behalf, and I've always had a lot of feelings for her, and I know her background, and I have some similarities as well with some church history and what have you. But so it's just a privilege to see her validated, to see a sense of identity and earthly family coming to the fore. But and we've also just sort of spoken briefly as well, but she's also like a daughter of the King of Kings, so she's got it all sorted now. So it's all come together, so that you're a co-heir with Christ, but your family history, and that's been validated. And so I think all of that coming together is also part of that restoration for you, and it's just been lovely to be a little part of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. Did you want to say any last thing before we finish off? Did you want to say anything else?
No, I don't think so.
You're done? Good on you. Love you. Well, we're going to hand back over to Dave and the team, and thank you for being part of Chris's story today.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It's a powerful story, and I was discussing with Lex this, in the lead up to this Sunday about today, choosing songs and just getting a feel for what was happening, and he said a very truthful line, which is God is in the details, and you heard from Carissa in terms of there's times in our life, whether it's a small thing or a major thing, where all you have is hope and faith, but nothing else. And even those things are hard to hold on to. And then life continues on, and then you look back and you go, well, hang on a second. How did I get to this point? All these things have happened, and that has left me, or this has been resolved, or things have happened, but not necessarily in the way that we hoped or dreamed. And sometimes sometimes beyond our hopes and dreams. And all those little things, all those little moments that have led you to that point, that's God working in the details. And so I just encourage anyone, no matter where you are at the moment, just to sit in that hope, in that faith, in the knowledge that God is a loving God. He is your Father. He is the God of all things, and nothing is impossible through him.
Throughout my history, faithfulness has walked beside me. The winter storms make way for spring, and every season from where I'm standing, I see the evidence of your goodness. because of you, oh Jesus, Lord. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. So why should I fear all the evidence? It is here. So why should I fear all the evidence? It is here. Oh, why should I fear all the evidence? It is here.
Amen. Have a blessed day and a blessed week. We'll see you next week online and hopefully in person not too far away. See you later.